I am distraught. What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking On My Block Season 3, one of my absolute favorite shows on Netflix, and one of the most underrated things on television, I believe, in general, over the past few years. So I need your comments down below. Did Season 3 measure up? What'd you think about the ending? My goodness, we'll get into all of these things. Let's get right into it. So, after being snatched off the street, Montse, Jamal, Ruby, and Caesar come face to face with their kidnapper, who makes them an offer they can't refuse.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
That was bad. Okay, On My Block. So, didn't get to review Season 1 on this channel. I actually binged it right before Season 2. Did that review. Absolutely love both seasons. And to this day, even after seeing Season 3, Season 1 is still my favorite because we're getting to know these characters. We're understanding the situations that they're in. And as we get introduced to new characters and new situations, the core of this show always remains the same. Now, one thing I had trouble getting into when I first started watching the first 3-4 episodes of the first season, I'm like, I don't know if the balance of humor and the balance of this very serious tone that they're going for, I don't know if that's meshing all that well. But the further you get and the more you understand these characters, you start to understand what this show is going for. And in my opinion, after seeing 3 seasons, whether we get a 4th or not, and we'll talk about that, I think the balance that they have captured is perfect. But even in this season, you still have those completely outlandish situations that just would not make sense in real life, and characters are so forgiving for what other characters are doing. It's all so unrealistic if you look at it from that perspective, right? You have Jasmine sneaking around taking pictures of our crew when they confront her about it, I believe in the 1st or 2nd episode of this season. It's hilarious, and you're laughing while you're watching, but then you start to think, like, no one could get away with that in real life. They wouldn't be that easily forgiving, right? And then you have Jamal having a panic attack, freaking out in the midst of his dad's restaurant. Okay, I feel like people around them would have sat there and went, yeah, could you keep it quiet? I'm trying to eat. But no, nobody said anything. But it all comes down to the tone that they established at the beginning of the series. And if they started to veer away from that, at this point, being so invested in the show, I would actually be kind of upset. So I like these outlandish situations. I like the fact that we get these zany and wacky things happening in the midst of all of this madness, and I mean pure chaotic madness. Now, I could sit here and say it's scaled down in this season, whatever, but no. There's possibly even more going on in Season 3 than there was in Seasons 1 and 2, but the beautiful thing about this show, and getting into the reason why I love it, probably the main reason why, is because they always go back to the core of what makes it so good, and that's the relationships, the topics that they handle, the situations that our characters are dealing with, and that part of the show is what's real, and that part of the show is what kept me around all 3 seasons, what got me invested into these characters, and the relationships that are constantly building. And this isn't a show that just tackles one particular thing. Well, you have everything that's going on within the gangs, you have the drug dealing, you have the money, which has been the topic of literally everything, and those are the things that keep our characters going. But then you have the father-daughter relationships, the father-son relationships, Montse and Caesar's relationship, which is one of my personal favorites, and the way that that develops in Season 3 was fantastic. You have what's going on with Ruby and Jasmine in this season, and those two, a little bit of back and forth going on there, and it has been the case throughout the first 2 seasons, but we're finally starting to see Ruby's perspective shift a tad bit more, and I really enjoy seeing that. My favorite character in the show, though, is Jamal. I love his outlandish nature. I love what he has to deal with in this season when he thinks he has a stalker and he thinks he knows the reason why it's a stalker, but as I would have done in high school, it doesn't actually end up being what he thought it was. It turns out to be something different. So I really liked what they did with his character in this season. Now, Jasmine is slowly becoming part of the group. And not that she hasn't been part of the group, but it's becoming more of the 5 instead of the 4. And I love to see her integration. And I like the fact that they gave her and Montse a bit more to do together this time around. We have the return of Oscar, a.k.a. Spooky, and his relationship with Caesar is a tad bit hot. It's on and off throughout the entire season, but that was a wonderful thing to see progress because as someone who has a younger brother, and to see how much Oscar actually cares about his brother because of what gets thrown on them. And I know this is a non-spoiler review, and this isn't a major reveal in this season, so if you don't want to know anything, skip the next 30 seconds to a minute of this review, but I am going to reveal a minor plot point here just so I can discuss how that affected the dynamics. So, their father actually returns and serves a big role in this season. And I love the fact that they avoided the trope of the father being the guy that maybe you expect him to be. He's just a bad dude, and he wants nothing but bad things to happen to the people around him, and maybe he doesn't even care all that much. Yeah, we've seen it 1,000 times before, but that is not who his father is. Even though his father is dealing with his demons, absolutely, and maybe he does make a few decisions that you're not all there on, he still loves his son. I mean, he loves both of his sons, and you can tell he does. But he absolutely shows that love for Caesar, and he tells him how proud he is of him. And I love that relationship, to see that develop. Now, as always, you're going to get those moments where things become intense. There's a fallout or two, and there are multiple moments within this season that had me on edge of not necessarily tears, but just heartbreak and sadness, and Montse dealing with what she has to deal with. And this show has never been one to stray away from death or tragedy or loss. And it's the same case this season. You never know who's safe. You're always on edge when something happens to one character. Even if they're not dead, you're still worried about where they are and how they are, right? And that is the realism of this show, is where these kids are living, their situation. It is far different than what some of us have to deal with, and the perspective that we get from the characters, and literally running around worried about if they're going to make it to the next day or not. That's the seriousness that I love about this show, and that's what works so well about this balance. Now, in terms of the overall plot thread throughout this season, still dealing with the money, absolutely, but this time we have to deal with the big boss, the leader, in a character by the name of Cuchillo. And of course, we left off in season 2 with what happened to our characters getting thrown in the back of the van with the masks over their heads, and we see the resolve of that. But she is sending our characters after someone by the name of Lil Ricky. And we don't know who it is. They don't know who it is. They have to figure it out. But the clock is ticking, and they're having to fix this problem. They're having to locate that individual. It's a tough thing for young kids to do. We have to remember, these guys aren't even seniors in high school. They have a long ways to go. They're very young, being placed in these situations where they're basically fearing for their life if they don't get some sort of resolve. And that was one of the things that kept us going in this season. Now, there were times in this season, I didn't even feel this in other seasons, when we kind of strayed from the path a bit too much. I'm okay if we stray from the path in an emotional way, or if we have some hilarious moments with the characters. But episode 6 in particular is one, when they're on the set of a music video, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm feeling this as much. It almost felt like it was detracting from our main goal, and all of the emotion that we felt in episode 5, which was one of the most emotional episodes, I would say, of the entire show so far. And normally that's something I'm completely okay with within this show. Even the conversations, say, between Jamal and Abuela, they're hilarious, and I welcome those because these kids are struggling and going through things that kids go through and kids will be able to relate to. But heck, I watch this show, and I'm not too much older, right? I'm 24, but I watch this show, and it throws me back to high school, and I didn't live through what these kids are living through, but I see myself in some of these situations, some of the awkward romances that we get in this season. And then we progress, relationships come, they go. Characters make decisions that you don't necessarily think they're going to make. And we get into what I believe to be one of the most emotional ends to any season on Netflix I've watched in some time. And if you're new to the show, heck, if you skipped seasons 1 and 2, for some reason you're watching this, you're not going to feel what we felt, what fans of this show long time have felt. And even if you're not all there on this season, and I'm close, I'm not all there. There were some decisions made that I don't think affected the storyline like I wanted them to, but at the end of the day, we got there. We accomplished the mission, and we really did resolve a lot of these relationships, and I actually want to do a video on this ending since this is a non-spoiler review, but I will say this. I was heartbroken, and this ending where we leave off our characters, it kind of tells me that this is it. It kind of tells me. Now, we could absolutely get a season 4, and I would not doubt it if Netflix wanted to do it, but this has never really been a show that a ton of people have talked about it. We talk about it, and I want us to spread the word, and I want you guys to tell other people, hey, go watch On My Block, but we can only do so much. And I'm glad if this is the end that they got the chance to tell their story and wrap up a lot of these storylines, because that's what they did. They wrapped up a lot of these storylines in unexpected ways, in emotional ways. And I was satisfied, but just I don't know what to think. And I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm supposed to be the guy reviewing, but I'm with you all. If you're feeling the same way, I would love to know in the comments. How you feeling right now? I'm just heartbroken. I'm conflicted. I'm happy. I'm upset. I'm angry. Got a lot going on, man. I want to see more. It's just a gut punch, but it's a beautiful way to take things out. So if you guys enjoyed this video and you'd like to see me talk about that ending in depth, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. We'll definitely do that on this channel. But as for my score, I'm going to go higher than I thought I was going to before the final episode, but I loved the final episode of this season, so I'm going to go an 80%. Now, is it my favorite season of On My Block? No, but it's still On My Block. And it's still a show that gives us everything we want, and it never strays away from what we love about these characters. And the characters take us through this season, and they get better and better and better. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like I said, leave those comments. Let me know how you feeling right now, and would you like to see more? Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon.